Billy, and everything you've been told about goal setting is a lie. What am I talking about when I say that? Well, like I've got probably the same advice that you've got. There's so much kind of information out there on the internet about goal setting and how important it is and what you need to do in the process to follow. SMART goals is the biggest one, and that's always been what's been taught to me. As far back as like when I was in school, we were setting goals for science or PE or sport or whatever. When I was playing ice hockey, that was always what you had to do when you set goals. Was it needs to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, and that was always what was kind of drilled into you. And so, yeah, as I'm alluding to, there's definitely a different way to do things, and that's the way that I would recommend that you do them. Because I've caught myself quite a lot of frustration and pain by using that goal setting system, and I'll kind of talk through how that's going to work. So I'll go into the story that is the title of the video, and the money that I turned down. It's not just clickbait. That is what happened. And then I'll go into kind of the way that I set goals now and why that's important. Because I think it is super, super important. It's important to have goals, but it's important to set them the right way. And so, yeah, I'll go into that. Let's go to the story. So, basically I'm a media buyer, so I run YouTube ads and Google ads and Facebook ads too. And the best way to explain it to someone who doesn't know what it is that back in the olden days, a media buyer would have been somebody that was like an intermediary between an advertiser and like a newspaper, for example. So they would buy Coca-Cola wants a full page spread in the magazine. The media buyer would go, hey, here's how much Coca-Cola want to pay for the full page spread. Can you do that? Then negotiate. And then obviously get that placement. And the same thing on radio and obviously TV when that became a thing. Now everything's kind of digital. I just go into a platform. I don't have to speak to anybody at Google and say, hey, we want to buy these ads. Everything's kind of more, tech and formulaic. But yeah, that's basically it. I felt it was relevant to give a little description of what I do. I currently work for an agency. I'm going to leave all the names out of the story, apart from the company that I work for. Just for the relevant, just because I think it's fair to them to not bring them into this. Basically I work for an agency at the moment. I've had a bunch of clients on the side over the years. I've worked at a few different agencies. Things are always kind of dynamic. So I have people reach out to me to run ads for them a lot of the time, and it's not always possible for me to do it just because of kind of the workload at the time. So sometimes at the agency I'll have as much as 8 clients, sometimes I'll have 4. I'm also in a leadership position at the agency, so that does take up more bandwidth too, as far as me not just having my accounts that I manage, but being in charge of other media buyers, quality assurance for them, leading and coaching them and helping them be better media buyers and just better human beings. So that takes up bandwidth too. So yeah, all that is just context to this story. So how this started was I was working at an agency, and somebody reached out, wanted me to run ads for him. And as I would normally do, I always want to see what they're running ads for, make sure that it's not scammy or just something that I don't agree with ethically. So he added me to the ad accounts, and I did have a look. And at the time, it wasn't really something I wanted to run ads for, and also I was kind of pretty stacked as far as bandwidth. And so I didn't really want to go forward with it. But it didn't really feel good to just say, hey, no, and then run away. So what I did was I shot him a Loom video, which is just a screen recording video inside of his ad account, and I kind of showed him everything that I would have done had I taken on his ads. And I got great feedback from that. He implemented what I told him himself, and got some good results, which was great. How that happened is, and a couple of weeks after I did that, obviously I left a good impression on him, and he said, hey, there's this company that are looking for somebody to run their YouTube ads. So at the time I was like, oh, well, it was a big company. So I was like, you know what, let me just see what happens. We'll see what happens with this opportunity. I got on the phone with him. It was great. The CEO was on a car ride, I think, and he just grilled me on just kind of my knowledge of ads, what I would do in different situations. iOS 14 has been a big thing in the industry, which is when Apple brought out that operating system, it meant that Facebook and Google and YouTube weren't able to track people as well, because it didn't let them track cookie data through the browser. He was drilling me about my reaction to that, what I've been doing now, what's been working, my experience across Facebook and Google. it went well. He said he wanted to go ahead, and then they actually we obviously had the conversation about how much they were going to pay me, which was a lot. It was in the six figures a year on top of what I was currently earning at the agency, and so. Yeah, and then obviously another exciting part of this was they were going to fly me out to meet everybody in Maryland in America, which is great. I'd never been to the US before, so that was a huge opportunity. So yeah, there's obviously lots of awesome parts of this, and I kind of obviously got wrapped up in it. And so yeah, I went ahead, and where all this fits into the goal setting is that at the start of the year, I'd set myself the goal to make 100K as a media buyer, and that was kind of my North Star. That was all I wanted to do, was make 100K as a media buyer. And to be honest with you, I think I didn't really care how I got there. I just wanted to do it. That was a big goal that I'd had. I think for the longest time, I just wanted to make 5K a month. That was the only thing that I could imagine. I couldn't imagine making more money than that. But when I did, and it didn't really fulfill me, I was like, hey, it must be, if I make 100 grand a year, that's like great. That's like 1% of income in the UK. There's nothing anybody can say to me that's like the pinnacle of success. So yeah, I signed the deal, went to America, met everybody, it was great. And then over the next few months, things ramped up at the agency, which I was really enjoying, and things also ramped up at this company as well. So they're what's called a SaaS company, which is just a software as a service. So yeah, they have a software that people buy. They're a huge company, kind of similar to Shopify in the size of them. And so yeah, things were going well. And then what basically happened was my bandwidth was taken up, and I was having 8 accounts at the agency. I had one, 2, 3 accounts with this company because I was running their Google ads, or their YouTube ads, Facebook ads, and then also we started doing some LinkedIn ads too. And so I just started to become really overwhelmed, and just not in a good place. So my mental health took a massive decline, and really what that ended up as at the lowest point was just everything in my life just felt like an obligation. I just didn't want to do anything. Like I woke up in the morning just dreading the day. I didn't want to open my laptop and do any work for anything, for the agency, for this other client, for myself. I didn't want to shave. I didn't want to like go to the gym. I just didn't want to do anything. And having been someone that struggled with mental health before, I identified pretty quick of like, this is not good. And the only way out of it was to start saying no to things. And so there was stuff I said no to as far as social obligations for a while. There was stuff I said no to like within the agency. I was like, I know you're asking me to take on more responsibility right now, but I'm just not in the headspace to do it. And then ultimately it came to me saying no to this company, and saying like to myself essentially, although this is what helped me hit my goal, although this is a lot of money and a lot of people wouldn't understand. My dad, for context for this, for how big of an issue this was for me, or how big of a decision it was, my dad's worked as a postman his whole life, so without making a comment on how much he's earning, it's probably about 30 grand a year for the whole of his life. My mum's been a nursery nurse and a teacher, and so for me to turn down like 100 grand a year on top of what I'm already earning was just like insane, and not something I even felt that I could talk to them about. So but ultimately my mental health came first, and so I actually said no to that, and it's not been something that I've regretted. And the biggest lesson out of it, which is what I want to transition to now about the goal setting, is when you set a really specific goal like that, you don't let things happen the way that they should happen. And it's happened in the past when I've been really attached to, I set a goal to be in a certain like leadership position within a certain company, and the problem with that goal is that it's too rigid, and it doesn't have your values aligned in it as well. And it's the same thing with the 100K goal. I'm pretty clear on my personal values, but I let that rule, and I let that be the number one thing, and I didn't have like fluidity to how I got there. So yeah, that's what I think is really important, and what I want to stress when you set goals is that it's cool to have goals like that, but you need to think about what's behind it. Like, what is the point of making 100K? It just became an arbitrary thing And so a better goal would be like, what do I want to do with that money, right? Do I want to retire my parents? Do I want to help, like donate a certain amount to charity? Like those things are like great, and those are goals that I would say get behind. But if you just set an arbitrary goal that doesn't really matter, because again, what like it doesn't define me as a person making 100k as a media buyer. It doesn't make me any better of a media buyer that I made 100k. So yeah, it was just looking back at it a really stupid goal because it didn't give me any fulfillment. I honestly, and a lot of people maybe can't understand this if you haven't earned that money, but literally even seeing that money come into my bank every week, it didn't make me feel any happier or even any more financially secure than I was before, which sounds crazy and it's probably a mindset issue that I have, but that's legitimately the case and legitimately what happened. So yeah, the biggest things, and I realise this has been a bit of a tangent, but to drill it down, the biggest things that you can do as far as goal setting is really think about your ideal lifestyle and what you want that to look like. I've got a friend that loves adventure, loves just travelling all over the country, going to the Lake District, going camping, going to other countries. And so it doesn't really matter to him what job he does. He's actually in the army, which is great because he gets to go to all these different countries. He gets to go climbing, scuba diving, and do all these things. And so if he set himself an income goal or set himself a goal of even being in a certain position in the army, like in the next 5 years, it wouldn't serve him because it doesn't serve kind of the lifestyle or what gives him the most fulfillment. So I think that's super, super important. Again, for me, this like the biggest lessons that I've got out of this is to not set arbitrary goals of, like I said, income. And just to think about what I really want. I'm like kind of the opposite of my buddy. I don't want to be traveling around and doing stuff. I like being in one location with some really good friends and having things close by. It doesn't mean that I don't like to go skiing and go, you know, on adventures and stuff, but I definitely like being in the same place because I really do enjoy working, and that's why it was crazy for me when I got to that place where everything was a chore and I just wasn't enjoying things at all. So yeah, definitely reach out if you want any advice on goal setting and how to do it, because I've made the mistake a bunch of times in the past, and when you get so locked in on achieving one thing, if things don't go your way, you don't kind of let things progress and let things develop the way that they should. I know there's kind of like a spiritual element that I'm bringing into this that maybe you won't agree with, but I do like wholeheartedly agree that the universe or God or whatever has a plan for you, and when you set a rigid plan, you're not letting things develop and letting things kind of happen the way that they should. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean that it's not kind of a better way for things to happen. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I'm sorry I've been a little bit loose on the action points for this, but I'm gonna try and be better going forward. But yeah, any questions, just shoot at me in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them.